You're listening to Halifax BLPO FM. Next up on the program, PostFun, showing their true colors with a cliche tune about rivers or something. Throw that shit on, baby.
I've been searching for a river, one where I can drift.
Hello.
All right, welcome everybody. We got a full house here in the apartment today. So, Jack, I'm going to start with you because you're the one person I really know out of the whole group. A few people I've met around here.
Excellent.
So, for my own introduction into who you were, I did see at the 2001 Music Week for Nova Scotia, there was a lot of PostFun promotional stuff around.
21.
Yeah. I gotta check my calendar. Last year's.
Yeah. So we played Music Week last year. I think that's when I first would have met you briefly.
Yeah. And were you guys just starting out then?
Yeah. So we started. We were a COVID baby, if you will.
Yeah.
Our first show was
a lot of those around here.
Yeah. First show was Evergreen Festival. So our very first show was like just to Andrew Jackson in a dark room and a bunch of cameras.
Awesome.
So no audience for a really long time. Didn't know if our songs sucked because everyone's listening from home. But no, it felt good. And our first show in person wasn't until months later at like Hop Yard. It was just a tiny little set. And then Music Week was shortly after that. So really cool to be thrown into it.
You went right out with the cryptic promotional materials.
Yeah.
It had like... Who is there? Somebody here that did the doodle, or
no? So that's like an artist friend of mine.
Okay,
Cooper, Josephine. They did all that stuff. Super cool. Kenzie also does some of the stuff as well.
Okay,
bit of a graphic designer.
Yeah, sort of. Cooper's got her hands on most of that, I think.
Okay.
Like the cover art for the first two singles as well. The sort of what was it, like Blender, some sort of 3D software.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cooper does.
I can't do any of that. So.
Cooper does like video game animation and stuff. So
sure. Yeah.
I wanted some renders for the first covers.
I always like seeing. Well, you've seen my apartment already. Yeah, I always like seeing all the different promotional stuff around. So
yeah,
I'm changing it up a little bit in here. I'm gonna have to find more wall space eventually.
Yeah, it's cool.
So you were also involved. The next time I would have seen you come up would have been the Emerge video series up in the city. So how did you become involved with that? Is that through the Youth Art Connection, or?
Yeah. So we just put in an application for that. Seemed interesting. I didn't really know anything about it beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Then I met CJ over there, the best dude ever. And yeah, we did an interview kind of like this there too, and it was a cool experience for us. So yeah, we were a pretty new band. But like got pretty lucky with some of the early shows we got being, taped, being able to get cool content out of it at the same time.
Yeah.
Able to share things pretty quickly. So.
Especially like developing as a band, having your first show really well recorded.
Yeah.
Being able to watch that and be like, oh, okay, this sucked, this didn't suck, whatever. But just like being able to look at it objectively and not be like, oh yeah, that felt pretty cool. I think people liked it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was just like a cool exercise to be thrown into the fire.
Yeah, that's why this podcast is even fun, and like to be able to do things on the fly, like what we're doing right now, is an extra little bonus. But it's nice to see when there's an organization that I obviously don't have the same type of cameras and microphones and whatnot, so it's nice to see a full production for an up-and-coming band.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had run into you again later at a conference thing, and we had discussed there's a little bit of connection back to Pictou County, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we have homies that lived here for a long time.
Yeah,
and I'm not from Pictou County or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that, but I'm trying to think of what the connection would have been.
What's the involvement where you're here today? Like you're playing down Shoebox tonight.
Yeah.
But what's your connection in with these guys?
Just
the local crew.
Yeah, Anna's just a longtime homie. We love Anna to death. So these guys, playing with Sleepy Kicks, like they're probably our best buds in the music scene too. So this is going to be like a lot of fun coming down here. It's always a place to stay often too. Usually we stay at Anna's place.
Yeah.
Play a lot of fun music, vibe off each other's music because I love Sleepy Kicks music as well. And then have a lot of drinks and a lot of laughs and get soul fueled.
Without getting too far away from what PostFun's doing next, I am curious, what's the connection with Sleepy Kicks too? Because I do see both band names seem to be circling around. It's obviously on this podcast we talk a lot about bands that do frequent through Gus's Pub and Shoebox, and the connection that you mentioned, it would actually be a reason for some of that because there's a lot of overlap, but you guys seem to be together a lot too.
Yeah.
So what's the connection that keeps the two bands circling around each other?
Yeah.
Is it just Anna?
Anna definitely helps as well, but
I think that some of these guys went to school together. That's part of it. Learning music business and music arts together. You build that connection when you're studying. But Braden has really helped us recently kind of develop our sound in different ways for our next stuff to come out. Doing a lot of production stuff. He's a talented gentleman.
Just making you guys louder is all.
But that might be the perfect segue. Why don't we get Braden to give a little introduction, and then we'll work our way around the room here.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
I'm Braden, as Jack mentioned. I play guitar and do some singing for Sleepy Kicks. That's pretty much... I'll do some production for these guys as well. I'm a engineer, did the NSCC thing, and I guess met Anna prior through... You guys were in school with her a little before.
I've been threatening to get her up here too, so I should have just told her to stop by. I was talking to her earlier.
Yeah, you need to get in on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the NSCC connection. That's where it's...
that's sort of where it began.
It seems that way.
And then, just like sort of, these guys are certainly a lot more busy than PostFun is nowadays, but like, playing kind of sort of similar music, sort of stuff in the same vein, and just like, being nice to each other and being friends, sharing some opportunities. And I don't know, like for me, it's people that I can hang out with is like awesome. If I can get a gig playing with a band that I like just love hanging out with and like love their music as well. Yeah. But most just like being buddies. Yeah. Is really nice.
Well, here's a more complex question for you then. What's the difference? Because both bands do have a similar sound.
Okay.
What would you say is the biggest difference between the two bands then? Because you guys are all buddies. You're obviously digesting each other's music, and if you help each other with each other's songs as well, then how do you know what's one song versus another song? You guys all know each other. How are you keeping the barrier between the bands?
Different songwriters do different things. People's hands have different instincts. The sound comes from the hands, as people say, and whether I believe that or not, but
PostFun's the back piece is a big difference. PostFun's got bigger hands than us, so it's they're able to kind of cover more of a range on the instruments.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Hand size on average for sure. But I don't know. That's a tough question. Take it.
I don't know. For me, like having them around so much is more about trying to jock their style and like take their ideas. So if we can get them to recording first, then we kind of claim
that's
it.
Where I was looking. That's exactly what I was looking for.
So I knew you were looking for the juicy beef. But we are trying to take all their sound all the time.
That's hired Braden. Actually, they don't know that he's actually a secret agent for Sleepy Kicks.
Doing recon the whole time.
Yeah.
There's actually two versions of Braden. There's one that's in the closet right now. He's the performer one, and then sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys all traveled down here today to play at Shoebox tonight. And what's going on after this? Like, are you guys going to be doing more shows like up in the city and stuff, or do you have any like little maritime tours coming up or anything like that?
I can speak for Sleepy Kicks. We do have a couple shows coming up, like in the city, but as far as like more rural areas, not too much. Nothing as of yet. We have a couple things in the works, but nothing confirmed at the moment quite yet.
PostFun's got some Halifax shows that are about to be announced coming up, and we're also excited to release a lot of stuff too.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is that
Yeah.
I know from following you online, like, was it Rivers a folk song?
Yeah.
That was the first one I would have known, obviously, and you had the video for it and everything. But you haven't had a lot of releases out.
No.
So I was wondering, like, is there like an EP or an album or something coming up?
Yeah, so we've been putting a lot of work in with a bunch of different engineers and just wrapped up working with Braden here. But the time's coming around to start putting this stuff out. It's been a long time running, and I'm pretty excited. I think the songs we have out are so old, right? It takes so long to write a song, make it. How you want it to
Old
be.
by today's standards, because there's such a short cycle for a new song nowadays.
Yeah,
Like years ago, you could have an album out 5 years later. People were like, "Oh, look, they did another one."
Yeah,
But now it's like 6 months later. It's like, "Oh, they had one song."
exactly.
But
yeah.
you should be able to listen to that song for like 2 years and not think it's old. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's only been 2 years, I think, that the band's been around, but that the music there, like that song, "The River is a Folk Song," it feels like eons ago that song was finished, because it came out a lot sooner than when it was written, and I feel that way about all the stuff we have backlogged right now. And I do think once it comes out, it's going to kind of show the band's maturity in different ways, like how the songwriting has changed, different instruments, different musicians on the tracks. And I mean, the first song that was recorded was all myself when I engineered at Code Pop. I just did it after hours, played all the instruments. I'm not as good at drums as Thomas, I'm not as good at bass as Mackenzie is. So every song I think I'm getting more confidence in, and I think they're sounding better and better, especially with Braden too, having a guy that can really again, similar music. We're friends, the bands are friends, but having somebody in the room that really knows kind of what you're going for
And like,
really does.
Braden, you've been to a lot of shows and are fairly familiar with the music, and like you're familiar with the live sound. Like what these songs sound like when we're on stage and like rocking and rolling. And yeah, I think you're good at capturing that too. And that's an important thing. That's like definitely a piece of the next couple releases, is like finding the core of like what the band is. Where like, as Jack said with When the Wind Shifts, the first single, that was like, it was kind of a concept that you're trying out, and then everything changed once other people were involved. And I think like even since River is a Folk Song, we've sort of honed that sound a little bit more, despite playing fucking crazy different genres and whatever, just kind of doing whatever feels good. We have sort of found a sound within that chaos that has come since River. So I'm excited for the new stuff to come out, and for people to also understand what we've been, what we're like going for now.
And if anyone happens to be listening to this today, are they going to hear some of the new material at Shoebox tonight?
Oh yeah, new material that's going to come out, and probably material that won't come out for a while.
Yeah, fair
We've
enough.
just been writing and writing and writing. Like, that's not. When I hear people say that writing new music is the issue, and like we can just record it and put it out, it's just need to come with the ideas. It's just complete opposite problem for us. We probably have 50 songs that we would love to record at any given time. It's just being able to scale.
Even like we have a lot of songs that the band like that are demoed and the band just like doesn't know about yet.
Yeah.
And like those songs are.
I know, not so much through the podcast, but I do know a few musicians they have like a bank of stuff, and they could at any point just do it. So.
It's endless. And it feels good to, be able to pick from the good stuff.
Yeah, and if you get to
throw
play
out
them in
bad
front of people and vet them out a little bit, then you know what's
Absolutely.
going to perform well. And
There's like, to me, there's no better feeling of like, just like outdoing yourself and like writing a bunch of songs and then just scrapping a bunch.
Yeah,
like I just love putting stuff to bed.
Better to cherry pick than try to think of what somebody would want to hear.
Yeah.
So if you already wrote stuff that you like and just pick from those, then it's a lot more fulfilling. Yeah. I know, even I don't do the music side, but even from this side, it's a little different when you've completely made a decision on what you're going to do and follow through on something, and then you're like, oh, that worked. But now that I've done a lot, I know that there's certain ones I would highlight as this is a good one and this is a good one.
Right.
So same kind of concept.
And with tonight, I'm just as far as new music goes. We haven't played a show in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing quite a lot. Decided to take a break and kind of finish some of those projects that we had started. And tonight we're going to be probably showcasing some new music that we haven't showed anyone before. So I'm pretty excited to see
Well,
what the perceptions are in that.
so what? I have one more question for you there too.
Yeah.
The podcast. You had a little
Yeah.
YouTube video where you were doing a podcast. Did you ever do a podcast? After
Yeah.
that?
So I recorded some episodes, and that's a product of having huge milestones and goals and just wanting to do it all the time and navigating like what you have time for and what you have to prioritize, right? And the podcast is something that is going to be brought back, but it's going to be brought back in a very different way than what we initially anticipated it to be.
Well, that's exciting.
Because a podcast is not something that I have experience in. But when I initially started it, I was like, this is an opportunity for me to share all the stuff that excites me throughout a week. Like, I want to show the best Scotty Barnes and play of the week, the best Toronto Raptors like dunk of the week. Talk about my favorite movie I saw this week, TV shows. Nobody cares for the most part. Maybe somebody does, but it's going to be really specific, and don't want to give too many details about that. But it's that's another.
I was making notes. These guys gave me the idea. I was like, well, what was your ideas for a podcast? Step number 1, do this before Jack.
Yeah.
Raptors dunk of the week.
Yeah, do it.
That's a next episode. Yep. Raptors dunk of the week by East Coast DNA.
Yeah, but yeah, just finding a way to be able to share stuff on a consistent basis, show that you're alive when you are working really hard on music, because we haven't stopped working, but we have stopped sharing stuff all the time. So being able to start kind of showing the work.
I think the winter months are coming on us pretty quick. I mean, we've held off, but there will be some time for some of those projects probably too. I'm thinking for the next 4 to 5 months, and then everyone will thaw out and want to go out and play live again. Nobody will have time to sit around watching it. So
yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That is exciting. You'll have to keep me up to date on that in the future. I do want to hear more about it.
Yeah.
But now a little bit about Sleepy Kicks. I don't know as much. So I've got 3 members here. So we got 2. We don't even have introductions from yet. So why don't you do introductions for yourselves, and then we'll talk a little about the band.
So I'm Mitch. I play guitar and do a little bit of singing and some synth stuff in Sleepy Kicks. Do a little bit of synth stuff. I do some wee-waws in my pastime.
And I'm Colin. I play drums and sing an 1/8 or a 1/10 of what Mitch sings. So
there you go.
Yeah.
We're always comparing each other.
It's a game of fractions.
And have you guys been around about the same amount of time?
Yeah, so roughly, we kind of formed like I think 3 or 4 months before the pandemic began.
Mm-hmm.
So you can choose to blame us for that or not, but but yeah, we had like, playing live for the first time. We had a couple months where it was like, oh, this is amazing, like can't wait, and then the wind was out of our sails. But I don't know, and I think the wind may have shifted, yeah. But I think we also found a way to kind of stay. It was a way of staying sane during the pandemic, for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. So you guys have new material you're promoting now.
Yeah, so we're sitting on 6 songs that I think are going to come out in 2023, early 2023, and then we're in the process of writing new stuff as well. So yeah, trying to have lots in the backlog, like we were kind of talking about.
So another thing too, then if there is anybody locally that's listening to this one today, which a lot of people are probably going to see it after today, so you've already played, but anyone that does happen to watch it today, what's something that you would say to get them to come down and see you guys? What am I going to tell people later when they say, what are you doing tonight? And I say, I'm going to go see PostFun and Sleepy Kicks. And they say, who are they? And I say, well, I have a video online. They're like, I don't have time for that. It's in a few hours. But
yeah, I don't know. I think that we hope that the audience can have half as much as the fun that we have on stage, because I think we're smiling a lot of the time. We're constantly giving each other looks and little smirks. So I think to just if you check out Yeah, you can see the sparks. You'll feel the warmth of our little grins on stage. But yeah, we have lots of fun, and I think that fun hopefully is contagious. So yeah, if they come down and check that out, then yeah, we'll have a good time with them.
And who are we missing from Sleepy Kicks?
We're missing Alex, so maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex. There was a like a little convention, like a all-you-can-eat buffet at the Halifax Convention Center.
Yeah.
He always puts in his date every year, but he couldn't come up for this one. So, unfortunately, Alex Heighton is missing. But I think he was with us when we met at Music Week there.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Alex, if you're listening to this, don't eat too much.
Yeah, there you go. So, is there other side projects? That's one thing that I want to ask. Like, when I have individuals and I get right into it, I like to find out their whole history. But do you guys have side projects outside of the two bands that we're talking about now?
Mm-hmm. I think with Sleepy Kicks, I think every one of us, except maybe Alex, has like side project, like solo project kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, for me personally, it's just like another way to kind of like, if a song doesn't necessarily fit the Sleepy Kicks like kind of spectrum or genre kind of thing, it's a nice way to kind of like still scratch that itch as far as getting like a song out that's, a little more like maybe pop focused or like, just a different blend that maybe Sleepy Kicks wouldn't necessarily like venture into. But still just using those creative muscles and putting something out and kind of just continuously creating and not getting in the way of yourself kind of thing.
Sure.
I don't know if... it's my name, Mitch Currie. And then I won't speak for you, but...
Yeah, Cowboys Anonymous. You can expect that before 2023. This is the official announcement.
And then Braden also goes under the name of... Can I say it now? Is it... The new name of Braden's solo material is Gooseneck, a.k.a. Schlizzard. Yeah, and I guess that's also one of the ways Sleepy Kicks came together was just like Braden was putting solo stuff out that I really enjoyed, and we kind of connected that way too. So there's a lot of stuff in our solo material that bleeds into Sleepy Kicks. But again, it's just like another way to kind of continuously use that creative muscle and not have to fit songs that you made up into a certain box for Sleepy Kicks. It's just like another source of release.
So between the bunch of you, how many are any of you doing music full time, or do you all have regular I'm doing air quotes for anyone that can't see me, regular jobs?
Yeah, if rent wasn't as bad as it was, maybe, but no, we have to pay some bills. So unfortunately, I think we're all working to
the powered down monitors are what pay for my bills.
Yeah. No, we're all working on the side as well. Like this is obviously, the dream for sure.
Yeah.
And like dream and my primary focus, but of course you have to have a roof over your head and pay bills kind of thing. So
absolutely.
It's tough. It's tough finding time as well to kind of balance the work life with the other creative work life. I've noticed,
in general, within Nova Scotia musicians, where a lot of us in Nova Scotia are in similar positions. So, it's easy to kind of put things into categories, but people of a certain age are at a point where you got to do so much in order to pay for your bills, and then you have to find a way to balance if you have a family life or some other type of social activities or whatever in your personal life, and then fit in all of your creative activity. So it is always nice to see when people can do the creativity full time, but it's not realistic for most people. So I am curious, a lot of people that I've been talking to the last 2-3 months of a certain age, again, which you guys would all fit into, seem to have all known each other through community college music programs. And you all seem to have your groups there's like 2 or 3 bands that all know each other really well, but then you would all know each other outside of that as well. And it seems that Halifax is completely scattered with those bands, but you're all reaching outside of, you're starting to see people in the Glasgow like we are today, right? So I'm a little curious. I understand a little bit that there's a volume of people out there, and so marketing wise and promotion wise and getting gigs and everything, I understand everyone's following similar paths, but why is everyone sticking together? What is the connective thread that's keeping everyone together when they've graduated from college and they met the love of their life and they're ready to start that chapter of life, but they're still like, well, my college buddies and my music. Mm-hmm. Like, I know a lot of people that gave that stuff up in their lifetime, but I'm talking to a lot of people lately that are absolutely 100% doing it. And it seems like, well, why wouldn't I be doing it? And everyone acknowledges it's hard to find time. Why or how are you able to keep that motivation to keep that part of your life active? And I mean, you don't all have to answer, but you would all have an answer for it because you're all in a similar situation. So just whoever wants to answer it can take the mic.
I think I can speak for all of us when I say I have this opinion. No, but I do think I think we've all talked about this before, that, you know, we're all hanging on for dear life. Like, it is such an absolute struggle to find time to pursue the creative aspect of this kind of thing and also balance it with you know, making funds and doing the real adult stuff. But as far as inspiration goes, I think it's like, I can speak again for myself, but like when I took a little bit of a break during the pandemic, it's just like, it's an itch that I have to do. It's not something that, like, you know, I'm voluntarily like can turn off. It's just, it's an outlet for me to kind of, it's the most at peace I like all the time. Like, yeah.
That's why I'm doing this. We've had so much content lately that we just went completely outside podcast. It was a YouTube channel for 2 months basically, and now we're back into the podcast, but I'm still sitting here talking to you guys and putting it up. So I mean, it's the same idea, just to keep doing it. But I know myself, where I'm of a slightly different age. If you were to take this collection beside you and really put it in chronological order, it'd be like rings of a tree. You could see where, like, oh yeah, he's always into this. Oh, what happened in this era? She's down the hall there, hiding in her room playing on TikTok. That's one of them, right? The other one's up in the city. I just don't introduce her to you guys because she's floating around the bars herself. So what is the goal for 2023 for everyone here? Because you guys all have new material coming out, and you're all buddies, and you're all starting to expand a little bit outside the city. So do you want to just focus on the album and finding a good loyal home base, or are you trying to get out to New Brunswick and maybe get a gig in Ontario?
Yeah. And part of the previous question there, just because it's something I've been thinking of constantly, is like how to keep going when you know, the wind's out of the sails. Because I've found myself there a lot, and it's like important to kind of reward myself in this creative environment. During the pandemic, we were distanced from shows, and I kind of forgot that, like, seeing people at shows is kind of what keeps me going. It's another reason why I hang around guys like Sleepy Kicks. I can see them play and I go, fuck you, you're too good. Yeah. And it pisses me off. And then I get home and I'm just like fueled, and I'm like grinding, and I'm like, Mitch, do you like this, man? Is this cool? And like, hopefully vice versa. It's just like, man, I hope PostFun thinks this is cool. I hope Sleepy Kicks thinks this is cool. A lot of bands in the city do that for me of different genres. I get so fired up when someone's really unique and cool with something. So for this next year, it's like, it's really just getting as stinking good as I can be at what I do, and defining what it is that PostFun does, where we fit in our scene, and how can we be the best at what we do, and motivate our peers around us. That's like the best feeling ever. If somebody that you admire is just like, that's awesome, that really got me going, like, that's my goal. In like, you know, specific matters, play a lot of shows out of the province, put out material on a consistent basis, regardless of how much. Just make sure that it's coming out at a time that makes sense. You know when it's going to come out. The
unfortunate realism of the modern era is, I've said that on this podcast before too, is that everybody has the opportunity for that 15 minutes of fame easily these days, because you can do it all yourself. but you have to be able to keep doing it to maintain it.
Yeah.
If you need any more than 15, you have to be able to do that again and again. And it can't be exactly the same every time either. So it really is more of a hustle type environment than it used to be.
Right.
Yeah, just to speak to that too, like, I find the whole time we've been a band, there's this constant kind of flux between what we want to be doing and what we see being done in the music industry. It's like, oh, you have to have a TikTok. And it's like, well, we're almost 28 years old. It's like, just in front of a camera, like doing dances doesn't really feel like our lane. And it's interesting because you see somebody like Steve Lacy who blew up recently, like blew up, like based on a TikTok song where now he says live shows, it's filled with fans. They're singing that one line that's in the TikTok.
Yeah.
And then he puts the mic to the crowd for the second verse and it's dead silent. So like, I do think that like, as we've been kind of going through this, like staying true to yourself and trying to produce media that like we think we think is funny, like those sorts of things. Like I do think that there's an avenue for that. And I think that if as much as we try and push the things that we don't want to do, like those are always the things that fall flat in your face because you don't want to promote it as much, or like, you know,
Sure.
people can feel that authenticity. But also I think we've talked a little bit about trying to foster the community within Halifax because there's so many good bands, and I think that there's so much potential, and Halifax has such a history of being this kind of musical landmark for alternative music. So I don't know, I think the pulse is coming back for all this stuff post-pandemic, and I think it can be stronger than ever. I think it'll last through all the changes going on in the city.
As a fan of music in general, like myself growing up, Sloan came out when I was a teenager, right? So, I mean, Halifax was big to me. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like all these bands from Halifax were like, we're on the map, like we're huge. But over the years, I mean, it didn't become what people projected it could be. But I do see, and like I said myself, I'm a little biased because if you look, there is some gaps in my collection. But coming out of COVID, the reason that we started this podcast was to cover that emerging scene, because we noticed it wasn't just a couple bands from Halifax. It was like 100 bands from Halifax, and every town had another half dozen. And Glasgow does have quite a few that have been active for years, but I've noticed too that since the pandemic, it seems like everyone's getting more focus on the industry side as far as marketing and promotions, and things are a lot easier to do yourself now, and people learned a lot over the last couple of years because they were home and had time to play around, right? So it's nice to see, and we talked about this in the last podcast too, that the bands that I like to have on the podcast or put on our YouTube channel are those bands that are supporting each other. I do find that the Halifax bands all know each other now, and you're all promoting each other. When we go to somewhere like Music Week, there's a real strong base of Halifax. And then on the outskirts, there's still indie rock people, but Halifax is such a huge indie rock base that I always want to know from you guys who else you're hanging out with and who else you're listening to. Just like, and you guys, both bands, are bands that I've picked up on from having those conversations with other people because you're in the same overlapping circles. Is there any bands that you guys are aware of outside of that HRM base? I'm getting pretty good at the Nova Scotia bands at this point, but
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm starting to try to expand the podcast a little bit outside of Nova Scotia, but I also realize I don't know all the Nova Scotia bands either.
As far as like Nova Scotia goes, like Juice Box, I guess would be more of a rural. Yarmouth? Lunenburg, sorry.
Okay.
Great punk band. We played with them once, I think so. A couple times, yeah. They did. That's all I know.
We're getting exposed as
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
are.
I'm
From the
gonna
mainland.
I'm gonna end up going back and just throwing this up online the way it is, but then I'm gonna go back and listen to it and be sitting there with a pen making little hand notes. I'm like, I gotta look up this band and look up this one.
Like I know some bands like from outside Nova Scotia, I guess, like more of the East Coast thing. Like, is it Opera House? Soap opera. Thank you.
Yeah,
From Newfoundland. Dad Patrol. Lexi Hicks. You know, the East Coast definitely has talent all throughout.
Those are perfect names, actually, because
Yeah.
they're just on the outskirts of the ones that I've been following anyway, so it's good for my own personal expansion.
Yeah.
But another question, since you're both Halifax-based bands, it's early to be even asking this question, but I have you here, so I can't not. ECMAs are in Halifax in May, so do Sleepy Kicks have plans on being there, or is there any presence of PostFun going to be there?
I think we're under legal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still early.
Yeah, it's still a little early. We would like to go for sure.
You're all in the city, so you're going to be attending the event regardless.
Absolutely,
So
yes.
we can all make that assumption
Yes,
anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah.
make sure to say hi. I will definitely be there. I'm in the same boat, actually. I don't know what I'm doing there, but I know I will be there.
Fair.
So anyone listening can see all of us there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be there for sure.
Yeah, go buy your tickets now, and if any of us end up anywhere on a ballot or something, click beside our names, and plenty of stuff to keep an eye out. I'm going to be following up on that question probably in the new year with a few different bands, so keep me in mind when you do have plans. Is there any new music videos coming out for both bands? I imagine if you have new material coming out, there's new videos.
Yeah, so our, tireless, or not tireless, opposite of that, run of building content has had a lot of stress on the video aspects too. We've been getting really involved in creating thoughtful video stuff. We did some a project recently with Braden, which really proved how much of a workhorse he is, but made a little bit of a short film.
Cool.
And a live set down in Prince Edward Island. And then we'll have some animated music videos coming.
Oh, that's cool.
As well as some live action ones that you shot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, really stoked on the video content to come. So
we actually today's video backdrop is my music stuff, but usually I have the stuff that would show I might like some of the animated stuff too. So, all right. So, have any of you guys? Well, I think Jack, you've been through Pictou County, but have all of you guys been through Pictou County before? Yeah. So I had asked this question with some other people that had been through here too, and not necessarily all in the recording, but have you guys had Pictou County pizza?
Oh yeah, the brown sauce.
Yeah. So how did you guys find that compares to the Halifax pizza? Because I've had conversations with some people recently. It's always been a debate for Pictou County people, right? Everyone from here grew up with the different sauce and they love it. But
There are two brown sauces. Like, there's one in Truro and one in Pictou. Is there not?
the one that's just up the road
Is the infamous one.
But they're all using the same base recipe. If you follow it back, it's
Okay.
yeah, it was Pictou County, but it's like I'm gonna feel horrible if I'm wrong, but I think it's like the difference between like a Greek recipe versus an Italian recipe for the sauce.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's like an onion.
Yeah, I remember tasting more onion.
Yeah.
I haven't had one here, and I'll have to try one out, but in Truro, I had a brown sauce pizza.
Oh, yeah. It would be very similar.
Yeah, you can definitely taste that it is different. I would be interested to see what the recipe is.
I always say Pictou County Pizza because that's the actual name of one of them,
Yes.
like up the road here.
Yeah.
But I think Sam's has a location up in the city now, too. So
Okay, yeah.
that would be the same.
Thicken this question a little bit. I think Cape Breton pizza needs to be at the table as well,
That's funny.
because they got some chunky veg on there, and it's an interesting sort of situation.
Are you from there originally? Is that
No, my partner lives there, and
Okay.
I'm up there all the time. But I don't know, Napoli or Kenny's, whatever kind of guy you are.
That's there's a Carlton Stone interview from Music Week up on my YouTube channel there, and we had a conversation with that at the
He's
end.
talking about the Cape Breton pizza.
Yeah, Napoli was his, and that's where I went afterwards. So I didn't try Kenny's.
Yeah, well, I'm a Napoli guy personally. I'm
Well,
not afraid to say it.
that's two.
Music
Yeah.
Week too.
Yeah, shout out Napoli.
Or ordered a pizza from a venue and ate it on the sidewalk, then went back in.
There you go. Perfect.
So having had I don't know. I'm here for the new Glasgow pizza. I think it's top notch, but I think it would be a disservice to our province to not include Cape Breton at the table. At least given the
it
spot
was
on
good.
The voting ballot.
It was good. I'll tell you. I've had all of them, but I was not disappointed with the recommendation. It's nice to hear another person seconding it too. So apparently that's the place to go. I got to call them, see if they want to sponsor the podcast.
Yeah,
that's what I got to do.
Get some za.
So I don't know. You guys are heading down to get set up there in a little bit. I know you got plenty of time. You're welcome to hang out here a little bit longer. Is there anywhere downtown that you guys? Might not even include this in the recording, but there's a few different restaurants down there. Have you guys been around the downtown area, or pretty much just Shoebox and?
Pretty much, for me anyway, it's limited to Shoebox and Acropole.
Yeah. Okay, and they're right there. So I mean, those are the key ones. Up the other end, there's a waffle bus stop now.
So,
it's a little restaurant that sells waffle sandwiches and stuff. And there's me and Dakota just had them. That's why that's where this smoothie's from, and I knew you guys were going down there. So.
Fried chicken and stuff.
Oh, there's everything. We had eggs Benny in waffles.
Oh my god.
It was delicious.
You asked earlier if any of us are like full time
Yeah.
musicians, but so Seth, who plays guitar in PostFun, he's got an unconventional career choice where he buys and sells Pokemon cards full time.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
his full time gig. So Acropole, Shoebox, and it's the buy and sell there.
Oh yeah, it's right
And
there.
Seth's just like he's probably there now if he's in New Glasgow.
There used to be a comic store in between too. On the walk down, there's a little. It's called the Mini Mall.
Right.
It's like a hallway strip mall through one of the buildings there, and there used to be a comic store in there until about somewhere during COVID.
Right.
That's awesome. All right, so maybe before I just hit stop, and maybe one person from each band could say where people can follow the band online and everything, and I'll just go back in here and clip some of this stuff out and piece it together and throw some songs on it or something.
Check out PostFun Music at PostFun Music on Instagram. It's the best way to see what we have going on. And shoot me a message if you're wondering about anything. I'm a happy guy. I'm a friendly guy. I'll give you a thumbs up.
Check out
Sleepy Kicks
at
Twitter. No, that's the one we don't have. Instagram and Facebook,
and
we just started a Mastodon account yesterday,
and
YouTube,
and
sleepykicksmusic.com. And if you see me, don't send me an email. I'm not a friendly guy.
don't touch me.
All right, well, thanks everyone. We'll end it on a good light note there. And I'll probably see you in a few hours too, I imagine.
Sweet.
Yeah, I think so. We'll be spending a lot of time there. Maybe too much time.